Thank you so much, Stephen Bader, for the traffic updates. We salute you. Thank you so much for always representing us on the roads. Of course, later on, we'll be linking up to you. I'm sure you'll be in another area just to let us in on what's happening on our roads, what routes we ought to take advantage of and what routes we ought to avoid. Thank you so much. We're getting into our Take Note conversation. Our conversation still continues. Of course, we're live on air and on social media as well, live on Facebook and YouTube pages. That's NTV Uganda. And you'll, of course, find the morning at NTV live stream right there. Let's take this bumper. We'll be back with Take Note. Stay with me. Welcome back. Now, I'm sure a majority of us, yes, are on that entrepreneurship space, all right? And as an entrepreneur, especially for startups, we always say that without support, it's hard for us to survive. Without affordable financing, it's hard for us to survive. So we'll be getting into that particular conversation and what different players are doing to support you and I. Of course, this slate is always watched by you, the entrepreneur. So let's take advantage of this. And if you can't tag a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, let's do this together, because we know that your actions and your enterprises do make a huge difference, of course, in the country's economy. Now, to talk about that particular support and what different entities are doing to support you in entrepreneurship, especially you as a startup, in studios, I'm being joined by Mr. Richard Zulu. He is the chairperson of Startup Uganda. Thank you so much for making time and welcome to Morning at NTV.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Next to him, I do have Miss Jane Kukunda. Yes, you're the Vice Chairperson of Startup Uganda. Thank you so much for making time and welcome to Morning at NTV.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Let me start with a lady. Ladies first. Jean, you are over and above you being the Vice Chairperson of Startup Uganda, of course, an association that is still fresh and new of different enablers just to support the entrepreneurs. On this side, you do have a design hub. Tell us more about that.
Design Hub was established to create a platform for the creative industry. It's one of the many other co-working spaces that support entrepreneurship in this country. A member of Startup Uganda, and we have different players. So Design Hub is just one of those that is supporting the creative industry to upscale their entrepreneur.
To upscale.
Yes.
All right. So it's co-shared spaces.
It's co-shared spaces.
What does it take for me to be part of that co-shared space in terms of payment? How much should I pay? And what are the benefits thereafter?
There's different benefits. And of course, paying a subsidized fee alongside creating the synergies with the people inside. However, for today especially, as we represent Startup Uganda, the bigger picture would be Startup Uganda. Design Hub would just be one of those members.
Right.
So we'll be looking more to have the conversation around Startup Uganda. That includes Design Hub, Innovation Village, you know, because there are many of us in the field that are looking to have entrepreneurship have a home. And doing that together is, I think, the most important part.
Right, which is great, and I'd like to salute you guys for doing this. But you mentioned something critical before we just jump to now Startup Uganda. Yes. What are we looking at in terms of the numbers for that, you know, fee I have to pay to be part of that, you know, co-working space? Because that is what entrepreneurs are looking for. Yes. They always say that once I'm in a co-working space, it's easier for me to actually think wider, because then we're many, we share ideas, my business would actually scale up like you're saying. So what are the numbers like in terms of people just plugging in?
The numbers really fluctuate depending on where you're at, and as we know, entrepreneurs are at different levels. So we have some in the ideation phase, some have really grown. So we take you on depending on where you are, and those numbers are going to be different, right, also to tailor to your needs and where you're at financially. Okay. So it could be as low as 25,000.
Oh,
it could
really?
be as high as 600,000.
That's per month?
Depending, yes, per month.
High five on the end. That's quite affordable, because entrepreneurs always say, I'm a startup, I don't have the financial muscle. Kudos to that. All right, so Mr. Zulu, yes, before we get into Startup Uganda, people just want to understand your contribution, especially as Outbox Hub. What are you and what do you do to support other entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so for the last 8 years, we've created a destination for different stakeholders in the startup ecosystem, including academia, including the entrepreneurs themselves and government, to just have a platform to engage and co-create initiatives that support our entrepreneurs. So just like Design Hub and many other members, we still have a shared space. We work with a lot of industry partners to build programs for entrepreneurs, and that way they're able to subsidize those programs so that the entrepreneurs can benefit from training, from funding, and the like. And then we also work with different corporates in terms of helping them work with startups, but also helping them innovate internally so that, you know, they can upskill the entrepreneurs.
All right. What's your membership like currently? Membership?
So at any one day we have a touch point of up to 120 people walking in and out of the space.
This is not consistent necessarily, but every single day you have numbers to 120.
Yes, actually quite consistent. It's quite
interesting.
Big space, yeah.
All right. So what are the costs for plugging in?
So the costs depend on how you're plugging in, right? So if you're plugging in through a program, definitely that is hugely subsidized by a partner. If you're plugging in, you know, just to work, so you pay something, you know, that comes from about 200,000 onwards, depending on what you need. So to try and make it as affordable as possible, we rely a lot on partnerships to subsidize the cost of working with entrepreneurs.
And of course, the benefits are humongous.
Humongous. It's a network.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you individually do different things, amazing things for the entrepreneur, especially the startups. Innovation is key and critical now in our conversations. Even government is saying that, hey, innovation is the way to go. What made you, the different entities, not just the two of you, but of course other people as well, to come together and form Startup Uganda? What was the driving force?
It would be the cliche that you can do so much more together. So I think in the past, the fragmentation could be one of the factors that there's been slow progress. And I think we decided to start having conversations together because we are supporting different people. And if we just harmonize that vision, I think there's so much that we can do, but also bringing on board different players and tapping into each other's networks to better support the people in our spaces.
All right. Yeah. So Startup Uganda, how many, you know, partners do you have so far in terms of the different enablers?
We have up to 10 members at the moment, largely composed of the innovation hubs. We are currently onboarding various stakeholders from different industries in finance, government. We're working with government, largely the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, and UN agencies and the like. So it's a growing membership.
All right, growing membership. So others can also jump on board.
Yes.
What does it take?
Basically, it takes you being an active enabler in the ecosystem, not just saying you are, but actually demonstrating that, you know, your core purpose is to support entrepreneurs, depending on whatever special purpose vehicle you use. Yeah.
All right. And of course, there are also benefits with regards to the enablers that come on board. You know, Jean, I want you to break down now the value. You're saying the fragmentation could be the reason as to why maybe startups are not doing well. Now, this enablers coming together, forming Startup Uganda is a great thing. But what's your value proposition to entrepreneurs and startups alike? What can you tell them this morning? What is it that you're offering them now that you're together? Powerhouses coming together.
Yes.
Yeah?
I think FAST is a platform, collective voices, I think very strong, and going back to African roots of Ubuntu, would be bringing that togetherness. Kampala Innovation Week is the starting point, is to have these different players and not just us that they've been used to, but also bring on board different private sector, government, because at the end of the day, we want policies that are in favor of entrepreneurship and innovation in this country. And whatever they're doing is best supported by all these different players. So being part of Kampala Innovation Week is a place that you need to, I guess, showcase what you're doing, engage with different stakeholders, and discover many other opportunities out there. So we'll be having so many master classes, plenary discussions with different people who have walked this journey and who can work with you. And I think mentorship goes a long way
Right.
with making sure you see your next birthday.
Right.
So we're looking to, Kampala Innovation Week being that platform for us.
Right. You know, you mentioned something critical, and that's influencing policy. And now that you're together, I think you have a stronger voice.
Yes.
Right. Kampala Innovations Week is your inaugural activity as a team, as, Startup Uganda. What are you looking at come the 16th to the 18th of October in terms of the numbers that will turn up, and also in terms of the value or, the benefits entrepreneurs stand to gain once they're part and parcel of this particular Innovation Week?
Yeah. So at the Innovation Week, at any one point, we expect to have at least touch points of up to 1,000 people, because it's at Kololo Independence Grounds. That's why we've gone for a very open and huge venue. But basically also we've tried to make it as very actionable as possible, right? And besides having plenaries where we all meet to have these discussions, it's also about the opportunity to relay information, to relay knowledge to the entrepreneurs, but also other stakeholders that are coming to be part of this. So we have master classes on investment, we have master classes on intellectual property, we have master classes on how do you create a product customers want, how do you build for it, things like that. So there are very many learning opportunities. How do you build inclusive innovations, right, all the way down to the bottom of the pyramid, even refugees. Then besides the master classes and the plenaries, there's the opportunity to exhibit, which encourages people coming through to see what you're doing, right? And we believe that is an opportunity to connect with others through you demonstrating what you're doing out there. So it's definitely something that not only entrepreneurs, but also different ecosystem players. Sometimes when we talk of innovators, people stay in their offices.
Yes.
Yes, then they only come out when they have a program on innovation. But it's important that even if you're in finance, even if you're, and you believe at any one point you will want to innovate with an ecosystem, it's important that you come through.
All right. You talked of exhibitions taking place throughout the week. How much will it cost for someone to exhibit their products or services? Jean?
I was hoping my chairman's going to support me there. But we do have different rates for that. We're also, as hubs, taking on some, not scholarships, because that will be academic, but supporting people so they can sign up through us, and then we can share the different rates that are available. But I think it's as low as 400,000.
Even as low as 200,000.
That's even better.
Yes, per stand, it's even better.
All right. So how do they contact you, especially now that the clock is ticking? We're looking at the 16th, just around the corner. So how do they contact you in terms of, especially the exhibitors? SMEs struggle with getting their products out there and people getting to know what it is that they offer. So for the exhibitors, how can they get the info, and where can they reach you at?
So one of the channels to reach us is definitely our website, which is www.kiw.ug. We're very responsive when it comes to that, but you can also visit our social media platforms, Kampala Innovation Week, on both Twitter and Facebook.
All right, okay.
Yes.
Jean, I'm sure you also struggled in this.
Yes.
I'm also an entrepreneur, and getting access to affordable financing has always been the hassle, especially for startups. They say that, and a majority actually get into it without some support, financial literacy. They borrow for the wrong reasons, and they struggle to pay back because the business is actually not servicing this particular loan, so giving back to them, or actually, making profits for them, so to speak. So in terms of what Startup Uganda will do for the startups, for the innovators, for the entrepreneurs in the land, financing, how are you going to look that in? Access to affordable financing.
So we have different partners on board who are bringing in international investors, but also importantly to know that we also have local investors. So we're looking to have these different people coming to see what we have to offer and making those matchmaking. So we'll be having matchmaking sessions for pitching competitions. But alongside that, having conversations that help you not just have the idea, but dream in terms of finances and how to better prepare yourself for this journey.
Interesting. I was looking at the statistics, and I was actually a panelist in one of the business forums, and it was interesting to see that innovation is not just in the tech space? Because we always
So happy you say that. Finally.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, innovation is not just in the tech space. We always think of innovation, oh, okay, so you're the one who works with gadgets. No,
Yes.
it's not that. It's in every space. And especially with the local manufacturers and the people getting into that space. We're having, you know, entrepreneurs coming from different spaces, including GNAT producers. Now struggling for space in the shelves, in the supermarkets as well. And we're looking at the statistics and we're seeing that their contribution to the country's GDP stands at 20%. That's humongous. But you do have potential to grow further. So Zulu, in terms of that support, especially for the local manufacturer, who's saying that my unit cost of production is so high, and for me to compete on pricing, especially when my product is on the shelf, is close to nil. So what are you going to do as Startup Uganda to just give them a soft landing in the market?
I think besides what Gina said around having different players understand what the Ugandan ecosystem has to offer, and not only startups learning about where to get money, is the aspect of lobbying again around shared infrastructure. Just like you see downtown, you have a lot of these retailers sharing shops. We have to do the same for our local manufacturers. How do we set up infrastructure that can very easily help someone get started in terms of shared costs? And I think that is something the Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation is trying to work around also, around what they call municipal centers. But we have to push more, even as private sector. That going beyond space, you have that at the Uganda Industrial Research Institute, but that's not enough, right? So how do we lobby for more of that so that the value addition of our manufacturers is actually enabled?
Right. You know, Jean, when I look at entrepreneurs, and especially in this particular space, now every private sector player has something to do with entrepreneurs, SMEs, you know, it's
a
pomp and
buzzword.
color. It's a buzzword now for them to just fit into this high numbers and big numbers, because a majority of them are actually the young people. And of course, they do comprise of the biggest number in our population. Now, I'll talk about that. Of course, they're doing what they can to support in terms of training, in terms of, you know, trying to get different packages for financing. But we do have this group and clout of people in our society where we look at them and we think, have you tried to support these people? And these are the high net worth individuals within the country. Do you look to leverage on their worth in terms of mentorship and also maybe offering grants to these young people?
Yes, very much so. And I think that's a starting point in terms of local investors, and also makes it very sustainable to have people within our reach that you know, finding relevance in investing in, you know, young investors, and all these buzzwords coming around, my side hustle, needs to be groomed, and needs to be groomed that people who are within, you know, their confines, and it could be, you know, in Uganda or the outskirts. So we're not tapping so far away. So we definitely look into bring them on board.
And to add to that, the discussion is already happening. There are some partners within Startup Uganda that are engaging high net worth individuals. A National Social Security Fund being one of them already.
All right.
And trying to say, how do we make sure, you see, it's also about educating them to understand that the pipeline is there.
Yes.
Right? Do we have something worth investing in within the country? Do we have investable businesses? And I think this is what every entrepreneur should strive for, that if you want to earn that money, you have to earn your keep.
You have to earn your keep. You know, we never like going there. And I'm happy that you mentioned NSSF, because in the US, you do know that they actually are very good at leveraging venture capital, which is amazing. So kudos to that. Just on the flip side, Jean, in terms of literacy, it's lacking. Just the other day in the news, it's quite unfortunate. We did see one of the university students committing suicide. Why? He said that, hey, maybe my route in life is to start on entrepreneurship, and I think I have the guts to get into it. Unfortunately, he didn't have, I think, what you call financial literacy, and maybe guys who will mentor and guide and walk the way with him. And he was indebted, too much debt that he took his own life. So in terms of just bridging that gap and walking the financial journey, in terms of literacy with the entrepreneurs, what will Startup Uganda do differently this time around? Of course, we have different entities trying to do that, but it's not sufficient. So this time around, Startup Uganda, what will you do differently to bridge that gap?
I think first, for the Innovation Week, we have put people like Zulu said, who are intentional, who are active players and have a heart for entrepreneurship, and they're looking for that to grow. And mentorship is the underlying factor. So apart from that week ending, we're hoping to make networks that are going to work with startups to a certain level. And people who are very intentional and are willing to invest not just money, but their time, their knowledge, because that definitely goes a long way with many people having brilliant ideas and clueless on what direction and how, and at the end of the day, we have sad stories like that.
Right.
So I think it's those networks that we're working with, and we're really, really hoping and trust that this is going to be a great journey
Right.
for most of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Zulu, Bubu policy. Buy Uganda, build Uganda. You've been in this particular space for a very long time also, you know, trying to, you know, observe the trends, especially after the implementation of the launch. Well, implementation still is a question. So what's the perception of the public, the masses, the Ugandans? Are they ready to support their own? Because that's another conversation. We can have amazing innovations. We can have amazing products and services.
Yeah.
But if we don't believe in our own, who will buy this? Are we waiting for the tourists to come through and support us?
Yeah. A good question. From my experience, at least I know the Ministry of ICT is trying as much as possible to move into that direction. The Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation is trying as much as possible to move into that direction. But as an ecosystem, we have a very, very big role to play in terms of how do we prepare our people. There's what they call readiness. Now that this policy has come, how are we preparing for that? And you're seeing every ecosystem player trying to move towards that, right? How do we standardize what it is? And who knows what is good or bad, right? How do we judge that? So definitely it's a very, very huge welcome gesture, but it's also a very, very big obligation for the enablers of these entrepreneurs, but also on the entrepreneurs themselves in terms of making the organizations ready. But I believe we shall get there. Every ecosystem starts somewhere, and I feel we're starting to achieve height in terms of addressing Bubu.
Right. You know, we were having this conversation of Bubu, and people were saying, when it comes to, it's my money, I'm the one to decide what to purchase. And with Bubu, you can never force Ugandans. Just because you have a policy, then you must buy what is Ugandan. So Jean, for that particular perception and mentality in Ugandans to change, because a majority will tell you, I'd rather buy an imported product because the quality is higher than a Ugandan-made product. So in terms of us getting to that point where we change the perception of the customer base, and these are the Ugandans. What ought to be done and done well enough? Yeah,
I'm glad you said quality, because I think that's the underlying factor, that we're a bit skeptical on the quality of the products here, which is, I think, a big part of what different enablers are doing. We'll be having, like in Kampala Innovation Week, we're talking about social branding. We're talking about how do you brand, standardization, how do you have good quality that we don't have to convince Ugandans. And it's with people, again, and I'm very big on mentorship, who have walked this journey. There's brands in the country that we admire. And hearing and learning with those people, being coached by them, I think will help a startup out there grow and know better how to package.
So once you get the quality right,
once we get the quality
the public
right, we
will
don't
buy
have,
into us.
I really believe so.
Right. Competition is another thing. You're trying to support a majority, come on board. But at the same time, we need to be cognizant of the fact that we'll be having clouds of people in the same space, producing the same products, offering the same services. So how are we prepared as Startup Uganda to be able to make sure that, hey, we have this cloud of people doing the same things, but competition is sorted out in a very, very professional way. And everyone does get a space in the market.
You know, before we came together as Startup Uganda, we thought we were competitors. But we are co-opeters.
Yes. All right, new word.
We cooperate and compete. But the goal is, you see, the thing here is we're on an international market. We're at a global market. With this African Free Trade Continental Agreement, with the East African community, it's no longer just you looking at your fellow Ugandans. It's about us looking at the whole market as a whole, right? So with opening up of boundaries, we have to prepare for that, right? And not just you and your small, innovation and someone in you. That's not enough. The competition is with yourself and the rest of the global economy, right? And for us, that's what we want to prepare our Ugandan ecosystem for. That's why you see the whole theme around the Innovation Week is how do we take Uganda's ecosystem to the next level?
All right.
Because we are in this together.
So will Startup Uganda be offering that linkage to external markets as well? That factor
Yes.
will it be catered for? All right.
Yes, so we have investors coming in from different countries. We have Japanese representatives coming in. So we have different stakeholders coming in to also share how do you unlock the next market for yourself.
Correct.
That is what we have to aspire for.
Right. It's not just here.
No, it's
a global market.
Yeah.
Leverage on that. Okay, lastly, as we wrap this up, Jean, I want you to talk to the viewers on camera 3. Just give them a reason as to why they need to turn up for the Innovation Week from 16th to the 18th of October.
Because you care for this country. But I think as you may be a startup or a private sector or government sector or an investor, you just have so much money. There's reason to take the Ugandan ecosystem for entrepreneurship the next level. And you being there just contributes to it moving a step forward. You want to be able to discover the talent in this country as we'll be showcasing different innovations, but also engage with the players who can contribute to seeing us celebrate many, many more startups' birthdays.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jean. Zulu, any tickets do we have to pay to turn up for the Innovations Week?
No, the Innovation Week is free. That's the beauty about it.
Okay.
You have to register on the website or just show up that day. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for coming through. And salute to you. You're doing amazing things for the entrepreneurs right here in the country. They did give you the website on how you can plug in into this, kind of amazing platform for you to grow and leverage your business as well. I was joined by Mr. Richard Zulu. Yes, he is the chairperson of Startup Uganda, and Miss Jean Kukunda. She is the vice chairperson of Startup Uganda. Make sure that you share this video. We'll share it on YouTube. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We're all entrepreneurs and we have that obligation to support each other. All right? So let's plug in. We're taking a short commercial break. Morning at 10 TV does continue. Stay with us.